Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Rhonda Farrell. I am the CEO of Global Innovation Strategies, bringing you today Spotlight on Success, Week 36. Our theme for today is From Playbooks to Culture, Building Repeatable Excellence that Scales with Impact. Last week, we turned our hard-won wins into playbooks so that excellence isn't trapped in someone's head. Today, we're turning those playbooks into culture, the invisible operating system that makes excellence repeatable, teachable, and scalable. To connect the dots from weeks 31 through 35, we talked about decision velocity, making quality decisions faster with shared language. We talked about legacy leverage, converting know-how into reusable assets. We talked about resilient leadership, drill, don't just plan, bounce forward under pressure. We talked about Copilot Leadership, using AI as a force multiplier, but with clear guardrails in place. And lastly, we talked about team playbooks, documenting what works so it survives turnover and the test of time. Today, you're going to leave with the culture operating systems, scorecards, guardrails, and a 30, 60, 90-day rollout so your best practices become everyone's baseline. So why does culture and not just tools win under pressure? Well, because playbooks capture what to do. Culture determines whether we actually do it, especially when it's busy, ambiguous, or messy. If results depend on a few heroes, you have fragility. If they depend on habits and mechanisms, you have durability. So telltale signs you're ready for culture work. Outcomes swing with staffing changes. New hires have to reinvent solved problems. Meetings debate preferences instead of principles. And metrics track activity, not adoption or outcomes. So the 5R culture operating system helps turn any playbook into a living habit. And so today we're going to talk about the roles of rituals, roles, routines, repositories, and reviews, and how you can leverage them overall to build repeatable excellence that scales with impact. First, we talk about rituals. Those are micro ceremonies that make the behavior that you're undertaking inevitable. So an example is a 10-minute prompt and guardrail huddle at each day or your shift start. A 5-question done check before handoffs. Or the creation of a starter script. What's the intent? Which guardrail zone are we in? And what does done look like? And then you turn that into a tool that you harness at your stand-ups every day to make sure that you have clarity on what you did, what the issues are, and what's most important going forward. Second are the roles. The key roles are sponsors, because they protect and fund initiatives, stewards, because they own and run those initiatives, and auditors who test and report out on those initiatives or projects or overall portfolios that those roles are responsible for. So you can make a one-pager to help you have clarity, much like a RACI chart. The role, what time needs to be invested, the deliverables, and most of all, what is done look like, or what does success look like for that particular initiative. Routines. You need to understand and time-bound things. You need to understand where that initiative lives on the calendar, because cadence enables your culture. So you can run weekly 15x5 sprints. We can insert things into our monthly retrospective. We can put things into our quarterly playbook harvest. All of these are routines that make sure that we're capturing our advances, that we're capturing risks, and that we're capturing lessons learned to make sure that the next iteration is stronger, better, faster, more value laden than the last. Next is repositories. We need one searchable place where we can put things with names that matches outcomes. So for example, playbook, executive brief, 15x5, green zone, version 2.1, so that we can always align them to our routines, our rules, and or our rituals. Lastly is our reviews. We follow a decide, act, debrief, improve, repeat methodology. So one of our metric pairs is time to apply versus quality upon the first use, right? That goes back to our rituals, that goes back to our routines, that goes back to our repositories, and we can understand from a lessons learned standpoint very quickly what do we need to enhance in our next iteration. So your action in this area is to pick one playbook or SOP that you've created. Circle the weakest R, the ritual, the role, the routine, the repository, or the review mechanism that that either hasn't been implemented or is not strong or not optimized. And then we want you to focus on fixing that in the next 7 days. So let's talk about these zones. So we have green, yellow, and no-fly zones. These are cultural guide rails that will help speed you up. And we also use them for our AI decisioning, because policies don't teach judgment. Guardrails and the rule set that's associated with them do. So if we're green, that means go. AI can draft, summarize, first pass analysis, etc. All you need is a peer quick glance at the outcomes, or outputs, I should say. The next is yellow, caution. AI can handle recommendations, co-joint budget, co-joint risk analysis, but humans need to be in the loop with regard to reviewing and ensuring correct evidentiary or compliance links. And then there is a no-fly stop zone where AI can, again, draft, summarize, and do first pass analysis. They may recommend, they may insert and create those evidentiary links, but they cannot make ethical, legal, safety, or people decisions on their own. They can only recommend. Then the human in the loop needs to understand how are they going to go forward. Is that recommendation set complete? Is it actionable? Is it aligned with the strategy? Do we have a mechanism to measure it, etc.? And then, is it aligned with our organizational priorities at this stage? And did we get it right from a risk mitigation perspective and from a compliance perspective? And then we need to document our rationale. And then it's even helpful to have a second pair of eyes on this decision-making model, as well as the outputs that were created. So as a habit hook, we can start our key meetings with what zone are we in, green, yellow, or no fly, and then choose our work and our priorities accordingly. So what are the outcomes? It's less debate on where are we, what are we doing, what are the priorities, etc. Because are we green, are we yellow, are we no fly? Less debate, faster throughput, and fewer oops, i.e., oh, we didn't know that we needed a guardrail. We didn't know that we needed a rule. Oh, we didn't know that this was out of alignment. Oh, we didn't know that that was incomplete. Oh, we didn't know or even have knowledge of the under the hood decision making of that AI entity because we didn't tell it to share all of its thought processes, or in other words, log all of its decisioning. Next, we need to get to heightened decision velocity, and that needs to be institutionalized. So how do we do that? Again, we go back to our 15-5 decision sprint. 15 minutes, we generate 3 options: bold, safe, stand still, with the associated trade-offs and risks. Then 5 minutes, we decide, we assign the next step, and we time box to 48 hours. We track these weekly: time to decision, the rework avoided, and a clarity score. A quick pulse check is clarity scores, I know the next right step, yes or no. Then we iterate and we improve and we innovate if necessary. So the manager line to use is, or the leader line to use is, what's the bold move, what's the safe move, and what's the cost of standing still. Next, we want to look at legacy leverage and team intellectual property, because culture spreads when your playbooks become intellectual property of your organization writ large. We can convert 3 high-value prompts and templates into shared assets with use cases, guardrails, and confidence labels. We can then help the organization learn to run 10-minute teachbacks in our team meetings, a story, an example, and the pitfalls that we saw or noted that we need to overcome. We can add a license note. So use for red projects and executive updates only, so that we could drive correct usage. So expertise compounds across the organization because single points of brilliance become shared capability. Next, we move to resilience drills and scorecards. Culture is tested in disruption, so we can't just plan it and go. We need to rehearse it. We need to drill, preferably on a monthly basis or more if you need to. So choose one scenario: a vendor slip up, apology change, some kind of cyber related outage, etc. Use the exact playbook that you have, capture the gaps, publish a 1-page after action with 2 to 5 remediations, and help score it with the resilience score: readiness, response to recovery, 1 to 5 in each area. What did you get? How are you going to get better? The win condition is lower panic, faster pivots, fewer escalations, and your time to restore is trending down. Next, signals and stories. This is really how culture spreads. What people see and repeat becomes culture. So signals are what leaders do first, last, and never. What you count and what gets celebrated. Stories are short case vignettes. We faced X, used Y playbook, and got Z results. Cadence is 1 signal plus 1 story in every all hands, and then rotate who tells it. So a template can be situation, playbook used, behavior we saw, outcome we were able to create, and because of ABC, the next time we'll do blah. Always improving, always innovating, and most of all, getting to the lessons learned. So it's iterative and becomes old hat. Operating mechanisms help make it self-healing. So we want to create 3 mechanisms that do not rely on your heroics. Yes, I'm not saying organizations should not have heroics, because the level of brilliance is on a continuum across an organization. What I'm saying is that if you're looking at it from a team play perspective, which is what culture is, no one hero has to drive the bus as well as do everything else. So yes, hire your heroes and help them play better together, as well as organizationally interconnect them so the organization writ large gets the value of those outcomes. So scaling agreements, reducing friction between teams, 2 pages, 4 headings, shared objective, why we exist better together. Second, we promise and we need. Each team states their 3 promises and 3 needs. Next, escalation path, who, when, and how. And lastly, the cadence, huddles, retrospectives, drills. What's the outcome and effect? Less turf wars, more flow. Disagreements become solvable design gaps. Well, we also can run into culture debt ledgers, right? So what we want to do through making a list of our cultural debt is to name it so that we can fix it. Every organization carries cultural debt. Habits that once helped us, but they now hurt us. They're old school. They are counting on people that are no longer with the organization. They were in that hero versus team mindset, etc. So keep a running ledger. The debt, the cultural debt component, the cost of that, the owner, the first fix, and the due date. So tackle 1 high cost, low effort item per sprint, and then also 1 higher cost, high effort, medium or high effort, right? Low, medium cost, high, medium effort, so that you get the cross section. You want to be able to fire on all 8 cylinders. So tackle all of the mix and match components of that to be able to clear your debt faster so you can go further. So what is the outcome of that? Well, because you're doing this together as a team of teams, your friction falls, your morale rises, and your speed returns. Next, we need to look at metrics that matter, both leading and lagging. So we can look at leading indicators weekly, adoption rates, or an index, percentage of teams using a given playbook, i.e. we haven't moved to a culture yet, but they are using a given playbook. Guardrail fidelity, were miszoned work detected. The median time to decision. And then the number and reach of the teachbacks that were done. Lagging indicators are rework avoided, i.e. the percent reduction, cycle time to done for everyone, i.e. our wins, incident reductions or customer escalations, reductions, and then retention engagement lift on the teams that are practicing the 5 ROS model. So make it visible. 5 number culture scorecards on 1 slide. Put your teams, put your scores, challenge compatibly across teams to advance the whole. Give prizes, make it visible, give awards, create support for innovation and improvement on an ongoing basis, and make sure that this is visible all the way up through the top of your pyramid. Anti-patterns to avoid, i.e. failure modes. Playbook theater going on. Documents exist, but there are no rituals or reviews. Ownerless excellence. No steward to actually maintain the assets. Tool worship. More platforms, but same outcomes and same behaviors. Sporadic cadence. Culture work only when it's calm, which honestly, at this stage is never. And shadow AI, unapproved tools with no audit trails. How do we counter this? Well, one, we need to go back to our roles and assign our stewards. We need to lock in our cadences. We need to enforce our guardrails, and we need to inspect our actual outcomes, not our intention. So we have an actual versus an expected. We need to understand what happened so that we can get the lesson learned and the root cause so that we can iterate forward. So a mini case is from pockets to expanded platform. An 180-person organization documented 6 Copilot wins as playbooks. They wrapped them up in the 5R OS model, added guardrail zones, and ran monthly drills. In 60 days, their prep time was reduced by 35%. Their decision latency reduced by 28%. And their handoff errors reduced by 22%. In 90 days, adoption of the top 3 playbooks hit 78% of the teams, and rework on executive briefs dropped 31%. The secret wasn't more tools, it was this culture architecture that we're putting into place. So let's look at the 30, 60, 90-day rollout. Who does what and when? Well, days 1 through 30 is usually your ignite stage. You want to pick 2 playbooks with the biggest drag on time or the largest amount of risks. We want you to apply the 5R, publish your guardrail zones, define your sponsor steward auditor, launch the 15x5 decision sprint and the weekly pulse, and move to a nudge loop. Harness your first teach back cycle to capture 2 stories. Days 31 through 60 are the stabilization phase. Given what you learned, given what you've tried, given the root cause and your remediations, we now invite you to add 2 more playbooks. Run 1 resilience drill and publish an after action with at least 2 fixes noted, why and how they could potentially apply to other issues as well. We want you to launch a culture scorecard and remove 1 culture debt item per sprint. And then we want you to sign 2 scaling agreements between commonly clashing teams. Phenomenal from a teaming standpoint to reduce the hero and advance the team, because you are committing, and so is everybody else, that we will work through our issues for the greater good. Days 61 through 90, and it's time to scale. Expand 60 to 70% of across all of your teams. Rotate your stewards so that you can begin to really help hone in the support for these initiatives and the actioning and the governance around them. Spotlight 1 signal and 1 story per all hands. formalize a sunset gate for stale playbooks and celebrate the value that they brought and innovate on what you've been able to do with them going forward. And then bake adoption metrics into your quarterly reviews. So our week 36 challenge for all of you to do starting now is select one playbook and map the 5R around it today. Tag it green, yellow, no fly, and run one 15x5 decision sprint. Hold a 10-minute teach back for a peer team this week. Measure 2 metrics for 30 days, time to decision and rework avoided. And post your before and after with hashtag spotlight on success. Nominate one leader to replicate your 5R for the next team, next playbook, next set of issues. So with regard to a reflection, you can create a journal or a team retrospective. You really need to understand from your team members which ritual will help make this process stick when nobody else is watching. Where will guardrails let you go faster without going risk blind? What is one piece of culture debt that you will pay down this sprint? And in 30 days, what proof will show that excellence is now being baked into your culture? Again, playbooks are the blueprint. Culture is the engine. Architect the engine with the 5R, steer with the guardrails, fuel it with stories and mechanisms, and measure what matters. Do that and watch your excellence scale. Again, this is Dr. Rhonda Farrell bringing you week 36 of Spotlight on Success, from playbooks to culture, building repeatable excellence that scales with impact.